It's the perfect way to spend an imperfect day. It's the perfect way to spend an imperfect day.
This is where we start. I've got it all mapped out in my head. We're here at the Hotel Indigo in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, with Lissie.
Hello, hi.
Instead of in East Nashville, we're chatting in downtown Nashville so that Lissie can go be a badass on the main stage at Live on the Green, the big capper day of Live on the Green. You have a farm.
I do.
You own your own farm.
I do.
You are fairly outdoorsy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say so. I enjoy being outdoors.
Okay, cool. Enough about you. I grew up in a farm town in northwest Ohio, and I fished, and I had a three-wheeler, and I was driving through the woods and beating down this path, and there was a tree house, and you had to take a bein. No, I'm not outdoorsy. So, in your professional opinion as a farm owner, what first steps can I take to getting back to nature and not be embarrassed to be asking someone who's a musician and owns a farm about their farm?
Well, you don't ever need to be embarrassed with me. But no, I think that, it just depends on what people prioritize in their life. You know, obviously the entertainment industry is changing and is a crazy one. I had always kind of romanticized this idea of like, I want to own a farm in Iowa someday, you know, very like Bridges of Madison County or Field of Dreams.
Is this heaven?
It's Iowa.
Iowa?
Maybe this is heaven.
I'm trying to help you, damn it!
I got dropped from my record deal in 2015, and I already had enough of like a fan base that I felt I'm gonna move back to the Midwest. I'm gonna buy this farm and hope that I have enough of a fan base that I can keep touring and making a living while also kind of prioritizing like getting back to my roots, being closer to my family, having this farm.
It's time for Map It Out. Where were you born?
Moline, Illinois.
What was the first place that you moved to?
We lived in Rock Island, but the hospital was in Moline, and they're basically interchangeable. They're two cities right next to each other on the Mississippi River.
And it's the Quad Cities, right?
The Quad Cities, so it's Iowa, Illinois, right on the Mississippi. So grew up in Rock Island. I left after high school, and I went to Colorado State. I looked on their website, and based on my test scores and my GPA, there was like a chart that would say if you could get in or not. And I saw that I could.
I would imagine
and I
it's
like
beautiful.
skiing and live music, and so I felt like I would like the culture. You know, it was really a good time because I loved going to see live music so much. I snuck into places I wasn't old enough to be in. I was out every night, like becoming friends with the bouncers and the security guards and the bartenders. They didn't know I was 18, you know, like I had a fake ID for a while. And so I was playing a ton of music in college. Like I was singing or opening. I had to open for G Love and Special Sauce and also Motley. And then I ended up meeting this DJ Harry, who he had done this remix of String Cheese Incident. So I ended up doing a song with him that like started getting on TV shows and stuff.
I'd be waiting all my life.
So it was actually like a time where I was doing a ton of music and actually gave me confidence because I started to like make money off it. I started to have like some successes that sort of made me feel like, well, maybe this isn't such a long shot.
So you went from Fort Collins to, this is my little segue, went from Fort Collins to Paris.
Paris for a semester of school,
Okay.
college.
And from Paris?
Back to Fort Collins.
Okay.
Dropped out of college, worked
Okay.
at a bar,
Yep.
then to LA.
Then to LA. Then to.
Ojai.
Then to.
Northeastern Iowa.
Which is where you are now.
Yes.
That was Map It Out. And it was an international Map It Out, our second international Map It Out.
Ooh.
We got to go overseas. It's now time for the Leahy Look with guest reporter Dean Moore. Andrew Leahy is usually with us, our co-host. He's got a wife, and he went to a friend's wedding, I guess. So he couldn't be here. I'm not a journalist like Andrew is. Andrew's a bona fide journalist. I do have a journalism degree, but a lot of good it did me.
Well,
Here I am. Andrew would like to ask, your Why You Runnin' debut EP was, to me, very Americana and very American sounding. Are we okay so far?
Mm-hmm.
You even covered a Hank Williams song on it. As your style has expanded and diversified, though, so has your audience. And we're not joking when we say she's like big in Scandinavia, UK, big here too. But that's a real thing. Your newer albums almost have a Europop sound to them. So is that a reflection of the time you've spent overseas? Do you ever look to your geographic surroundings for songwriting prompts?
I wish that I could say for sure
Okay.
yes or no,
Okay.
because I think a lot of my creativity is very subconscious. So I think even songs that I was writing years ago, I can look at the lyrics and see how like I've made decisions in the last few years that were almost predicted in lyrics I wrote 10 years ago. So there's a lot happening under the surface, like that I'm not even fully aware of. I think the sounds of my records are very informed by my collaborators. So my
Yeah.
most recent album, I worked with a guy in London quite a bit,
Okay.
Liam Howe, who was part of Sneaker Pimps, a band that I
yeah.
was into, years ago. And so, and where, yes, he's based in London, so there is some influence there.
Okay. We're on to something.
It's always kind of a bit of a mystery that I couldn't really tell you for sure. I wait until the songs come to me, and I know
You do.
that sounds like obnoxious or like a channel it, but a lot of things that I come up with, like I have this story, an example in my last album, this song Sand that I wrote. I had kind of was getting out of a relationship. That's what I pretty much write all my songs about, boys. But I'd also had a bunch of trees that had been transplanted into my yard, and there were gaps around its roots, and so I had to go to the quarry and have them dump like a ton of sand in the back of my truck and drive it back and basically fill up these buckets of sand and then pour the sand into like the open kind of crevices. So I was for days like carrying sand and shoveling sand and buckets of sand and like.
And this was happening at what point in the relationship?
This was like the relationship wasn't ever
Sorry.
really a relationship. I was shoveling sand
Right?
and thinking about this relationship, and I started singing this song that's like, it's like carrying sand, it slips out of my hand. Ooh,
wow.
ooh.
It's like carrying sand. It slips out of my hand. Ooh, I wonder if someday I'm gonna laugh about it.
So basically, I wrote that whole song in my head while I was shoveling sand. The creative act I was engaged in was like kind of physical labor and like planting trees. I wasn't sitting in a studio with a guitar. I feel like I'm better at coming up with melodies and lyrics when I'm just sort of going about my business.
We're going to move on to the next segment, which we are calling this week Professor J. Dumo's Happy Smile Time. Happy Smile Time. Start over. This is Professor J. Dumo's Happy Smile Time Super Challenge. He asks, you are one of the most ambitious and creative song coverers. Should I start over?
What was that?
It's somebody's phone.
It's Professor J. Dumo's Happy Smile Time Super Challenge. Professor Dumo's Happy Smile Time Super Challenge. And Jay also is not here. He has a girlfriend, and they're on a vacation. I don't know about these weddings and vacations and girlfriends and things, but he says, you are one of the most ambitious and creative song coverers we have in the music biz, Lissie.
That's a very nice statement.
From Hank Williams.
When bells are ringing in the
to Metallica, to Kid Cudi. There is no genre you won't tackle. Jay, Andrew, and I have chosen a song, each of us, that we're going to suggest that you cover, and then you pick the one that you think would be most likely that you would cover, and then whoever wins gets bragging rights.
Okay.
So Jay says Crystal Blue Persuasion by Tommy James and the Shondells.
Ain't it beautiful? Ooh, crystal blue persuasion.
Andrew says Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio.
As I walk through the valley where I harvest my grain, I take a look at my wife and realize she's very plain.
Ooh.
And then here's mine. Okay. Have you done a disco cover yet?
I'm about to do my first disco cover, actually.
Bitch.
What were you gonna say?
Have you ever done a disco, hard rock disco?
I don't
cover?
even know if I know what hard rock disco is.
Let me tell you about I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss. Now, hear me out. It's like it's the only hard rock disco hit ever.
I'm trying to think how that song even goes. I'll Google it.
Well, I can just...
If I had to choose one, I think I actually maybe would choose Gangster's Paradise.
Son of a-
At this point, just because I already kind of know some of the words to that. But
But I mentioned that I picked the Kiss song.
Yes.
Andrew gets the win. It's fine. Yay.
Yep. Cool.
I don't know. I think that's probably...
Hopefully
Good
you'll
enough.
have like enough to
I have
to
plenty.
put together and.
Stacy has plenty, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Thanks for spending so much time
My
with us.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And go have a wonderful gig.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining East Nashville Happy Hour.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers to you. I do have a bit of an adult beverage that you got already.
It's like a big. It's like a giant. You know, it's sort of. It's. I don't know how to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, so I have to have just
Oh,
a little.
you don't
Just
need-
a little.
I
Just a
can't
little
imagine why you'd be
splash.
nervous.
Yeah. Do you want to at all
Yeah.
introduce that we're here at the Indigo so people understand all the noise and commotion in the background?
It's probably a good idea. When I first said, what first steps can I take to get back to nature, I ended up writing, what first steps can I take to get back to mature?
Yeah. Don't grow up.
So
I
know
think
what-
that's the way to get back
that
to
the
nature.
advice?
Is don't mature. Keep
Okay,
your
well,
childlike
then I'm-
wonder.
I'm right on the right path. Well, you're like a real artist.
Mm.
You're like a real person.
You're a real artist.
Yeah. Not really. So long, folks. And thanks, Harry.
See you next episode, everybody.
Bye. And scene. We're here at... Is that good enough?